First off, you're going to have a good time. You're going to have an addiction that will never go away. So you're going to make friends for life that fish and like the things that you do. And it doesn't matter if you're the janitor or you're a brain surgeon. Everybody talks fishing, and we all have that key thing going on together. Everybody treats everybody great, and it's just a fun time.
All right, welcome to the Fishing for a Reason podcast. It is great to have you guys back here as always, and we have a really fun topic to bring to you this week. As we've talked about in the last few episodes, this is our slow season, and we're all like, all right, we're just thinking about fishing and talking about fishing. But this week, we're talking about an opportunity where you can actually go out and get away from the nasty weather in the Pacific Northwest and go catch some much larger, much harder fighting fish. We spent some time down in Los Barriles, Mexico. So a little backstory. You probably recognize John Keizer and Eddie Dalmau. I'll let them introduce themselves, but John has been somebody, Scott and I were talking about this. I saw you for the first time at Salmon University. You were speaking.
I didn't think you were that old.
You did like a Westport, I think, talk or a tuna talk. Yeah, one or the other. But I was in the audience and I remember seeing you, and I stalked you on the internet, of course, after that, because I wanted to learn all that I could about fishing. And you had this thing called Salt Patrol. You did all this exotic fishing, and it was like blowing my mind of what was possible for somebody who was new to the industry like me. And eventually I think you had an opening. It sounded like it was one of those things that was pretty full all the time when you guys were in Los Barriles, and somehow I sneaked my way in there. Yep. And we went fishing down in Mexico, and it's a whole nother game than the Pacific Northwest. Completely blew my mind. Absolutely a blast. Such a different type of fishery and experience. And it was warm. We hung out with a bunch of Pacific Northwest people, and we are inviting you guys into an opportunity to maybe go and do this fishery yourself. So before we dive into all of that, John, can you give us a little bit of background of how you've gotten into the industry, wherever you want to start with that? How did Salt Patrol become Salt Patrol?
I've been doing this for, probably 35 years. And, I started, I was a deckhand at Westport. That's where I learned how to fish and kind of worked my way up and, had different things going on. And I love to fish, I like all the fisheries, but I spend probably 90% of my time up here in the Northwest fishing. And that's where everybody kind of knows me from, doing, radio, TV, writing. Did a lot of writing back in the day for Fishing and Hunting News. I was actually the editor for the saltwater section. Still write for some magazines and from time to time, and I enjoy that and do the shows. People see me doing seminars at the boat show or the Portland Sportsman Show or other places that I get led by the nose into. They have to do them, but I enjoy it. I love meeting people and talking fishing, and I'm one of those kind of people that's more than willing to share. If you come up and talk to me, I'm very approachable. So, and then I met this guy that's on the other line there, hanging out. And that was probably, we've been doing tournaments down there for 17 years. I think I was fishing down there probably 5 years before that, at least. And I had fished Cabo, and I still fish a lot of places around the world. But I'll tell you, when I got down to the Baja, oh my God, I knew I found the place. I mean, it was like the desert, warm with good fishing. I mean, it's that kind of climate. And the people are so friendly, I mean, it's unreal. It's not, you can't really, when people say it's Mexico, I'm like, no, it's the Baja. It's totally different. And I'm sure Eddie can jump in and tell you, but everybody is friendly down there. It's a whole different environment. And I mean, the first year I had the tournament, I think Eddie told me, he says, well, get like 8 people or something to come. And I think the first year we did it, I had 50 some people because I told them I was going to go down there and put on a tournament, and all these people went. I was like, God, I better step this up, because the next year we had like 120, and I was like, man, that's too many. So then we tried to get it down to like around 80, around there, that number. Sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little lower, but it was been going on for that many years, and now we're looking at doing something in La Paz, which is a whole different animal, but it's a lot of fun too. It's many times from the area that we fished, we'd run up to the La Paz area and fish. So I'm pretty familiar with the area, and fishing around the island up there, and it's really, really good fishing. It's, what can I say? You have in the Baja, you have every species of marlin. You have, including sailfish. All that stuff is there. You have tuna. You have dorado. You have all kinds of different bottom fish. Yellowtail. I mean, it's like Jacques Cousteau said, it's the aquarium of the world. The Baja.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's my happy place. So I love it.
So you said you started there 5 years prior to the
tournament.
I
jumped around to some different places fishing, and when I hit Palmas, I was like, I found my spot. So that was it.
I remember when I first met John, it was at a trade show in Seattle. I think John at the time was working. I know he was doing the Salmon University, but I think he was working the Scotty Downrigger booth. And he was helping out there, and he would come over we were like catty corner to each other, and I had never met John, and he came walking over, and he's like, I go here, I've stayed in that room, I fished on that boat, but I think John, that time was going in May. I think you were going in May doing your fishing trips, and he was really excited that I was right there, and then he was actually trying to pitch me to advertise on the Salmon University site, and I was, me coming from a marketing background, I was like, why would I advertise on the Salmon University website? It's salmon. And he's like, yeah, but a lot of my guys might want to go to Mexico. And I go, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And I said, well, would you consider bringing a small group down to justify my marketing expenses with him? And he said, yeah, how many guys do you want? I said, maybe like 10, 20 guys. And he was like, yeah. So he started pitching the trip. And like John said, I think he brought like 60 guys the first year. And then like the second year, it was like doubled that. And then, like John said, we tried to find the happy medium there to get that going. I think I met John probably like 20 years ago. You make all the contacts at the trade shows, and I've met some great people, and I've gotten some great groups together. My background started, like I was telling you before we started recording the show. I come from a marketing background, not a fishing background, so I kind of had to learn fishing while I was helping marketing the East Cape area and Los Barillas specifically. And so I was always trying to figure out, ways where I can get like small groups and just like Salt Patrol, where that group kind of settled in between 60 and 80 people is what we kind of settled in throughout the years. We did about 20 groups and tournaments throughout the year, just like that. Some groups were 20 and some groups were up to 100. But throughout the season, which is basically from April to November, we would handle, about 20 groups. And then we started doing big tournaments, like some of the biggest tournaments in the East Cape I was involved with. One was the Dorado Shootout, which is about 140 boats, $40 million in prize money. We would give away a pickup truck. But I was always on this side of the table where I was doing registration, weighing the fish. I would be the MC for the award ceremony. I would never fish the tournaments. I would always be the one running the tournament. So I got to do that over my 24 years down there in Baja, and kind of split time. I would be in Baja for 6 months, and then I would be back in California for 6 months, and I would be doing, when I was up here, I'd be doing trade shows like in January, February, and March, and then taking care of like the marketing with TV shows and print ads and things like that. And John would write articles about it, and I always refer to John as kind of like the Pied Piper down there. He's very well respected. Everyone knows John. He's a great fisherman, and the way I kind of look at it, the way he was able to get so many people to come down in the Pacific Northwest would say, if John's going there, it's got to be good.
100%.
You're not the only one. A lot of people come to me and say, I respect John, I trust John, and I think that's why we got along really good, is because I was kind of like that way too. I never oversold anything. A lot of people accused me of underselling. They were like, man, it was so much better than the way you pitched it. And I'd rather have that than the opposite, and so we got along instantly, and we were able to keep that relationship for 17, 18 years. But I think that people, respect John in the Pacific Northwest, and they're like, if that guy's going somewhere, he's got to be good, and it's got to be a good place, it's got to be safe. And so people just kind of followed him, and John is the type of person that's going to do his due diligence, and he's going to check out a place. I moved to La Paz, even though he knew me for 18 years, wanted to come up, he wanted to check it out, he wanted to see it, he wanted to fish it, and I was able to get him up there, and I actually was able to get Justin Wolf from Angler West TV, who does a TV show here in Northern California. So they were able to film an episode together, so I was able to kill two birds with one stone, have John come down, check out our operation, see the boats, see the hotel, see La Paz in a more detailed scenario where he can kind of sell it, and also film an episode with Justin so that we can do some more marketing on that end as well. And John liked it, and we sat down afterwards. We had a meeting in the restaurant, and he said, yeah, I could definitely sell this, and it's a great place. It's a great fishery, and let's do it. We'll put it together.
Love it. Well, we'll make sure to link to that episode. I believe I saw that one. You guys caught some really nice roosterfish, if I recall, in that one.
Yeah, roosterfish, some big snapper.
Yeah.
One thing about that La Paz fishery and the time that we're going, you've been down there before, and you're used to 80% of trolling. I mean, at least. Okay, so this fishery is more hands-on. You're throwing when you fish for yellowtail, you're throwing a light bait out behind the boat and waiting for them to grab it. Yeah, and you're almost like motor mooching, and you're it's like a big herring, except the herring's about this big. So and when a yellowtail grabs that thing, oh boy, you got to fish on. And it's the same thing. We're fishing. We'll stop and throw bait out. You don't know if you're going to get a roosterfish, a dorado, or a big snapper. I mean, they're famous for the snapper fishing up there. And one thing I didn't know that Eddie told me was the locals consider the snapper the best eating fish of any fish in the Baja. And after I ate one, I understood why. Now,
We get a lot of grouper down there, and grouper is a white flaky fish, really good. And they're the ones they'll run right for the rock, and then they'll bury themselves in a cave. But you got to get them before they run into the caves. Same thing. There's a spot there that's very famous. I actually fished a yellowtail tournament, and the difference between the East Cape, Los Barillas, and the fishery in La Paz, the main difference is the yellowtail fishing in the springtime. La Paz is really known for that, where they'll come through Cabo and through the East Cape, and they'll settle in La Paz and they'll settle in Laredo, so a little bit further north. And so that's what we're really known for, is that March, April, May timeframe for yellowtail. That's why I kind of wanted Salt Patrol to come in April, and you can get a lot of yellowtail. And at the same time, you've got the snapper and the grouper that are going to be around during that time. And you have a shot of dorado at the same time, and your roosters are always going to be around that time. In a tournament in April, there's a spot called the ferry. It's where a ferry had sunk, and a lot of yellowtail there. The problem is
pretty famous spot, yeah.
When the yellowtail hit, they run for the ferry, and you got to get them before they get into the ferry, because if they get into the ferry, they're going to snap you off. And we were fishing in the tournament, and our boat dispatcher, it was me and my boat dispatcher, we were a team, and he was on the fish, and it must have been a big yellowtail. We never saw it, but he had it full break. He had his thumbs on the reel like this, trying to hold it, and it just freight trained right for the ferry, and we couldn't stop it. It snapped, and it was gone. So it must have been a big fish, because usually we could stop him, and he's an expert. He's been fishing for a long time. Thank God it was on his line, because it would have been me. It would have been me, because I couldn't stop it. So when you come down to fish that time of year, you've got some really strong fighting fish, like the yellowfin in the East Cape, very strong fighting. But the grouper, the snappers, they'll tend to run right for the. So you've got just seconds. You've got to get them turned around, because if they run for those rocks, then they're going to snap you off. And they've got very tough jaws, strong teeth. They'll bite your line right off. And those yellowtail, they freight train. So you got to get them early, or you're not going to get them.
So are you fishing kind of shallow then? Is it shallower than what you're typically fishing out there? Or
yeah, most of the time you're 100 feet of water, or maybe a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, the thing is we got to remember the water's so clear. When you throw some bait out or something, something's coming to eat it, guaranteed.
They see it, yeah.
It's like, here they come, and you just like Eddie said, I had a big snapper on, and it got me in the rocks. And I mean, I literally had to drag all the way on and had my both thumbs on top of the reel, trying to stop it. I thought, I'm going to break it off, or I'm going to stop it. And it still took the reel all the way down, and he got in the rocks. And then I tried to let it go to see if he'd come out and all that, to play that game. And I didn't get that one, but I got some nice ones. Some of these fish could be, 30-pound snapper is a fight. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time down there. And I tell you what, the other difference too is La Paz is a major city, and there's a lot of neat stuff to do there. I couldn't believe it. The Malecon, which I'll let Eddie talk about some of that stuff, and some of the restaurants he sent me to. I was like, oh my God, this is nice. But you'll see families walking up and down the thing, and it's a really neat place. And the hotel was really nice too. You got a pool. You got a hot tub, you got a bar there, you got the restaurant in there. My gosh, you lay out there, and actually people come by and say, hey, would you like a drink? We'll go get it for you, kind of thing. It's not, yeah, a little different than where we were before. And then the food is really good. The first time I went in there, Eddie said, well, wait till you go to brunch. so because we actually went to breakfast in the morning. It's included in with the tournament, I mean, there was like people cooking stuff here. There was like 2 or 3 warming trays down the thing with stuff in it to pick from. And you're like, if you got hungry between that and the lunch they give you, you did something wrong. Because I'm telling you, I was very impressed with the operation. Let's say at the hotel, that was something that I had to check it out because, as you know, and some you don't, but some of the other ladies, that's what they want to know about.
Yep.
they're coming and they want to know, hey, what's the deal? Well, okay, ladies, I got news for you. You're going to like it. So you'll get everything that you want. You can go for a walk. You can lay there. The beaches are beautiful. They got some of the nicest beaches in the world that you can go to. What's the name of that beach, Eddie?
Landra, which is one of the most famous beaches in Mexico, and it's very well protected. They actually have sessions that you go in.
Yeah, and one of them has in the bay. There's like a mushroom rock that sticks up, and it's real famous, and it's on a lot of the logos in the area. You'll see it on the artwork and stuff, and that's pretty cool. So that was neat. We actually, no, I didn't walk down to the beach, but we took the boat right up to it, just about, into the bay there, and it's real shallow. So it's like 4 or 5 feet deep, and you can walk across it and stuff. Downtown, same thing. You can walk. It's like a mile or mile and a half down to get on the Malecon, and you can walk to there. I mean, it's all sidewalks all the way down, or it's $5 to get in a van, and they'll take you down there and drop you off wherever you want to go. We walked the whole thing and checked out all the restaurants and stuff, and I thought, well, this is really nice. And Eddie's like, no, you only saw part of it. There's like 2 streets up. There's still more restaurants and stuff. It was pretty phenomenal. I mean, the food, we went to one that was, it's kind of the Mexican version of Argentina Steakhouse. Oh my God. The food. We all went to dinner one night and we had a really good time there. So that was a fun place. And then he's got one that we're looking at doing when we're there. It's you go in and they come out and they present the foods from the different areas of Mexico. It's like a sampling of different areas and different cultures. They come out dressed differently and they bring you the food and stuff. So that's something I think that people would really enjoy doing that too. So
did you fly in directly to La Paz, or what kind of logistics did you do?
Okay, so here's the deal. I came from obviously Seattle and I went to LA, and then from LA, I flew to La Paz because I wanted to check out the flight. It's one of those very small jets. So it only holds, so many people. The other option is to fly to Cabo, and then from Cabo, take the van up. They'll come get you. But honestly, doing both ways, if I had never been there before, I'd probably go to Cabo and fly up. Because, the other thing, too, is anytime you're returning with fish, a direct flight is a really good thing.
It is.
Yeah. It's one of those things you learn, and you're like, where's my fish? So you got more flight options going out of Cabo than you do from La Paz.
And what's the drive from the airport is probably maybe, what's it at, an hour to the drive or 45 minutes?
Yeah, I think it's 2 hours from the airport. Yeah. So, and it's very scenic all the way up. So, I mean, there's stuff to look at. So, and they will stop and get cervezas and whatever you want along the way. It's not like it's a power drive. They'll make a pit stop for you. And from the airport in La Paz, it's like maybe 20 minutes to get to the hotel. So that's the other option. So you could look at maybe flying in one way and going back the other way too. So that there's different ways to do it.
Yeah, guys will some guys will do that. What they'll do is if they can't find a flight into La Paz, they'll go into Cabo and one way, and then on the way back they'll go out of La Paz or Cabo, depending on how they can get flights in or out. But yeah, and we don't go the same route. So if you do go to the Cabo airport, we don't go through Los Perillas. So you're not coming up to Cia Cortez.
Oh.
So because that's a very windy road. That's you go actually on the Pacific side through Todos Santos side, and it's a much straighter route. It's the way that the big rigs go because it's straight. You're not going through all the curves. So it is a straight shot. It goes very quickly. It's about 2 hours and you're in La Paz. But like John said, you can fly into La Paz, but you have to go through LA right now because that's the only way you can go through. If anybody's coming in from like San Diego area, you can cross the border at Tijuana, where what you do is it's called CBX, and you actually park on the San Diego side. You take a bridge over into Mexico, but you go right into the airport in Tijuana, so you actually never step foot In Mexico, you just go from the parking lot in San Diego across the bridge into Tijuana, get on your flight and fly out. And then when you're flying from Tijuana to La Paz or Cabo, it's a domestic flight. So you're basically just flying right in and you're not having to clear customs or anything. You've already cleared customs when you walked across. And the same thing on the way back. You're flying in domestically, you cross the bridge, then you clear customs as you're crossing the bridge, get in your car and drive home. So some guys in Southern California, well, the San Diego area, they tend to do that, and they can save a little bit of money too because the flights are cheaper because now you're flying domestically from Tijuana to La Paz direct. And so a lot of guys choose to do that. But like John said, when you're flying with fish, the direct flight sometimes can be a little bit better for you and just take the 2-hour drive. But maybe fly into La Paz, save yourself the drive, and fly out of Cabo with your fish. That might be the way to go.
Oh, yeah. How many times a week are they flying now into La Paz?
They're doing 4. So they're going to be doing 5, I believe, soon from LA to La Paz. They're supposed to be adding flights every day. I know all the flights are always full because I've flown back and forth a few times already, and the flights are full. So hopefully they keep adding. The lady at the Alaska desk told me that they should be adding 1 more day by the end of this year. So hopefully that'll happen.
Oh, good.
It's just Alaska Airlines that flies?
Right now,
Just
it's Alaska, and out of Tijuana, there is Volaris, and there's Aerobus, I think it's called. They fly out of there direct, but as far as like connecting from the Pacific Northwest, it would be through LA on Alaska.
Well, I think I'm going to just turn it over to you, Eddie, to kind of paint a picture of what this experience looks like. Because I have about 1,000 questions that I think you're probably going to answer right as you start sharing. So
Absolutely. So yeah, I'll start with just letting people know, like the most common package that we sell, and John can testify to this. We start with like a 5-day, 4-night, 3 days fishing. Because that was what we started with the tournament because it was a 3-day fishing tournament. But everybody started adding on, and people would stay for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks. Some people would come down for. So you can do any size you'd like, and we encourage you to do that, especially if you plan on fishing for 3 days. Is take a couple extra days. That way you can enjoy some of the other stuff to do there, which is and I'll go over that with you. But just to kind of show you, and I'll put this on my screen, what the package is that we do, and hopefully you guys can see this. This is kind of like our standard package, and it's a 5-day, 4-night accommodations, and we include 3 days of fishing. The price is $15.25, but it includes a lot more than what we're used to in the East Cape. So here it includes your hotel, your fishing, it includes breakfast each morning, includes your lunch on the boat, includes your water on the boat. Fish processing is included. So in the East Cape, you had to go to the smokehouse and you had to pay $2.50, $3 a pound for that. On addition to, so we take care of that for you. Fishing license is also included. So if you don't have a Mexican fishing license, which most people don't, we include that in the price. Your ground transportation from La Paz Airport is included. If you have to go out of Cabo, we do charge extra for that because it's a much longer trip. But if you do fly into La Paz, at least one of the legs, we'll include that leg and we'll charge you for the other one. So that's kind of just what our packages start at. And if you add on to that, you can add just hotel nights, and it's not that expensive. You're looking at maybe like $150 a night for a hotel room. That includes your breakfast each morning. And like John said, it's an amazing breakfast buffet. And if you're there on Saturday and Sunday, it's even an expanded breakfast buffet. They're going to put out like clams, and they're going to put out champagne and mimosas and tacos and all kinds of stuff. And I'll show you some pictures here of the hotel. This is where we try to put most of our guests. This is the marine waterfront. This is where we have rooms set aside for the Salt Patrol guests. Here's kind of the shot of the pool and the hotel. It's a 5-story room hotel. And if you look straight back, you'll see a palapa there. That's the bar. And it's funny because it's a pirate bar. It's themed in pirates, and you'll see pirate statues, and it's called the Pirate Bar. But it has nothing to do with Baja Pirates. It just so happens to be a pirate bar that we have there. And over there to the left, you can see the red roof, a little bit of the restaurant there. And I'll show you a little bit, some more pictures of that. This is kind of your view when you're in the room on the balcony and you're overlooking the ocean. So you can see the water in the background. You'll see all these, multi-million-dollar yachts out front of your room. So it's not a beach right out front. So it's a little bit different than like in Los Barriles per se. So if you were to go to the beach, you would have to go take a taxi ride to the beach because you're not right in front of the beach there. The rooms are very nice rooms. These is kind of like with your 2 double beds. You've got the little balcony outside, and you got a nice flat screen TV in the room. And this is kind of like your king. So if you have a king bed, you got your 2 chairs and a little balcony out front. So they're real nice. This is kind of like where you have your breakfast or your lunch or your dinner at the hotel restaurant. So to the left is where all the boats are. And then this is kind of like your outside seating there. And then you've got indoor seating as well. They've got air conditioning in there. So if it gets too hot, you can sit inside. And if it's nice, you can sit outside. The nice thing about the Salt Patrol trip being in April, the weather's perfect in April down there. 60s the low, 80s the high. So it's just a perfect temperature. There's no humidity. So you're not going to be too hot. You're not going to be too cold. It's going to be perfect temperature. One of my favorite months. And this is kind of like what John was saying, the breakfast buffet. They put out all this food every morning for all the guests. They're one of the few hotels that will open up the restaurant at 6 in the morning for us so that we can get the fishermen to have breakfast in the morning. They have like a grill there where you can order eggs to order. So if you wanted to order an omelet or if you wanted to do huevos rancheros, they'll do it, pancakes, they'll do it right there on the flat grill, plus the buffet, whatever you want to have at the buffet. And they have the juice and the coffee. And that's all included because the hotel includes your breakfast. We include your lunch and the water on the boat, where some places they even charge you, $1 for water. They charge you additional, $15 for lunch. And, all that is add on. We try to include as much as possible so you don't feel like you're getting nickeled and dimed. Here's the cost. The only thing you got to worry about is going to be your dinner. Like John said, there's so many great restaurants that you can go to in La Paz. So you definitely won't go hungry. One of the best steak places I've ever had in my life, and I'm not talking about just in Mexico, I'm talking about just in general, is in La Paz. It was one of these places. Did I take you there, John?
Yeah, we were just talking about it. That's one of the best places. I've been to a lot of steak places around the world. That place was good.
Yeah. You order like the baby back ribs and you pick up the bone and you end up with the bone in your hand. The wings are the same, and then their steaks are phenomenal. And they'll prepare your catch. So we always encourage you, like if you catch, like say a dorado or a yellowtail, take it to the restaurant and before you have it frozen and have it fresh that day, and they'll prepare it 3 or 4 different ways for you. And great way to go. That way you can really enjoy fresh fish that day. And there's a place that we go to a lot. It's called Casanitos, right on the Malecon.
That was good.
I've had people go 5 days in a row, and I'm like, you're not going to go try something. Once you find a good place, you just keep going back. So they love to go there, and the menu's big enough where you can have something different every day. I'll use some pictures. This is basically some of the species that we're going after in La Paz. So you've got your yellowtail, you've got your dorado, your yellowfin tuna, your marlin, your grouper, your snapper, your wahoo, and your roosterfish. There's a lot of variations of these species. Like there's variations of the snappers and the groupers, things like that. So there's a lot of different species you can go for, but those are primarily the ones that we're getting. In April, when Salt Patrol is going down, they're primarily going to be yellowtail, dorado, grouper, snapper, roosterfish, and marlin. Striped marlin will be around during that time, so that's primarily what they're going to be going after. Right there, we're looking at a bear snapper, which is that was caught last year, and those are the ones that go into the rocks, and they put on a good fight. And,
oh boy.
Really good to eat. So that's one of the ones that could look forward to fighting. That's a nice yellowtail right there.
Wow.
Those guys are brutes. And in Japan they call it hamachi. And so very, very good eating fish. You get some of those occasionally. Another good eating fish. You can see in the background there, that's kind of when you come back from the dock, we have our fillet station there. We vacuum pack them right away and we freeze them right away. So right when you get back, that's being done while you wait. One of the many snappers that we get down there, in Mexico we call them pargo.
They are good eating.
Yeah, a Spanish word for snapper. So those are brutes as well. Big yellowtail again. April time frame is really, really known for yellowtail.
Is there a size limit on yellowtail and grouper?
No limits on that. Just the amount. You can catch 5 per fishing license. So all the species are 5. You can catch 5 yellowtail, 5 grouper, 5 snapper. You have plenty of room on the limits. There's the roosterfish.
Oh, so cool.
That was actually my roosterfish. I let him hold it. This was good. Yep.
And so here you see like the yellowtail, some dorado, and then some grouper. You can have a day like that where you get some good variety. There's a rack of all yellowtail. So they're different sizes. They can get pretty big. I've seen them 40, 50 pounders. So anywhere between 20 to 50 pounds is pretty normal. Another great rooster there.
And this guy, actually, the guy holding the fish, he's the guy that I was telling you earlier that went to that seafood restaurant 5 days in a row, and he was like,
"That's so good. I just keep going back."
just keep going back. You got your striped marlin, which we get a lot of. The Sea Cortez is known Right, marlin are kind of more local residents, just kind of like dorado are. They're always around, just a matter of whether they're biting or not. In wintertime, they're even there, but into that December, January, February timeframe, the wind blows down there quite a bit. We just don't like to send a lot of people down because if you go down, like say you guys come down from the Pacific Northwest, a lot of money, you got to fly down, you got to pay for a hotel and all that, and you might get blown out of the water every day. So we kind of wait for that March to get down when we know they're not going to get blown out every day. Great dorado fishing as well. Dorado fishing really starts picking up right after the Yellowtail season. So they do have a crossover that April, May time frame, and then June, July, August, September, October, and even into November down there in La Paz. It's a steady diet of dorado. Guys, they hit it just right. They were there in April last year, and every day they were giant racks of Yellowtail. So they were having a good time, and they had their catch prepared every night for them, and good eating there. There's some more big dorados, some bulls.
Nice.
They caught. So yeah, and then if you look behind, that's kind of our marina. Our marina is actually about 15 minutes away from the hotel, so you actually get taken. We have a big 18-passenger van, and we have a 10-passenger van. After breakfast, from the hotel to the marina there, and then we get you on the boats and get you out fishing, and then we pick you up around 2:30. In Cabo, they get up to 300 pounds. Here in La Paz, what I've seen at least in the year and a half that I've been working, you have more of like your football size up to 50 to 80 pounds. They have caught some big ones, but it's not as common. But these, I prefer actually the smaller tuna for eating. They actually eat better. They're better tasting. And then dorado is one of my favorite for eating. And I think it's because you just can't go wrong with it. No matter how I prepare it, it comes out good. You really can't mess it up. There's a beautiful sailfish. I think sailfish are one of the prettiest fish down there as far as the billfish go. With their beautiful sail. They're actually one of the fastest fish in the ocean. There's a lot of great fishing and a lot of different species that you can go after. So it's definitely a very diverse fishery. I'll show you some of the boats too, just so you have an idea of what you're fishing on. Let me just see here.
And are you guys doing a tournament this time?
We're work in progress. It's not going to be like we did at Palmas. We're going to have something. We're working on it, but we're not doing all the prizes and stuff like that. Like, it's not going to be that kind of, we don't have enough people.
More casual this time, and not have that pressure of, especially like the first year, just get people, their feet wet into La Paz and just have people come and relax,
right,
and not have that pressure. What we started seeing towards the end of the Salt Patrol tournament and in Los Brillos was that people were like, we've caught a lot of marlin, and this is a marlin tournament. We really want to spend some time catching dorado and tuna and some of the eating fish. And so we thought that we would kind of cater to that. And that started adjusting our point system in the Salt Patrol tournament to kind of help the anglers get points by catching tuna, dorado, and those species as well. So that kind of helped as well. But I think what John and I had talked about was trying to keep it more casual and trying to keep it more fun and not have that tournament pressure on.
We're gonna do some stuff, but not to that level. It's like Eddie said, I want you guys to go down there, experience it, have a good time, and then you kind of know it, and then we'll adapt. I mean, when we started Salt Patrol, we didn't start real big either. We did a few things, and it just kept growing because it's input by the people that go kind of directs it the way it's going to go. So, I mean, I don't just make these things up. I'm out there asking everybody, what do you think? What do you want to see different? What do you want, added? And they give you feedback and stuff, but like, I just talked to Joe the other night and he's like, well, I'm still bringing gift cards to give away. I said, all right. I'm like, hey, that's fine. You bring those Cabrillo gift cards. We appreciate that, but we're going to have stuff. We'll have some stuff, but it's going to be a little different format. So
a little more low key, but that element of competition will still be there.
A little bit. Maybe I'm thinking like different species, prize for the species, but not the.
Yeah.
I got to go out and whack a bunch of marlin. They're definitely not going to be any marlin involved in it. So
yeah.
No, I'd rather you took fish home to eat.
Well, and it looks like there's so many different varieties. I'm like blown away right now of all the different. I feel like you need another freezer for this trip.
Yeah.
So here's like some of the boats that we have. Like this is a Defiant here, which it's very similar to like a Parker and center console walkarounds. It's a little bit different than in the East Cape, but we also have some of those boats as well. These center console walkarounds where you can fish from the front and the back, they work great down there. You see a lot of them down there. It's a little bit different than what you see in the East Cape. These Triumphs are great as well. You can fish from the front, from the back. This is that Parker right there, Big John. I think that's the one that John fished on when he was down there. And then you've got Super Pongas as well. And you've got the cruiser in the back, the LPO boat that you see there in the background.
And then your basic super panga, if you wanted to go out on a basic super panga, is great. And I think this is kind of like your typical of your that you see in the East Cape. And then it's kind of like it'll show you just a little bit of all the different kind of boats that we have to offer, from Sea Pros, Sea Fox, Pro Lines, Parkers, Pangas, and the Triumphs as well. So we have access to a lot of boats. So if you want something specific, like right now, I think we've already booked we have room for about 30 people on this trip, and we've already booked like 15.
That was my question. How many rooms do you have left?
Yeah, I know all the Kings are done. I think everyone booked the Kings because a lot of couples are coming in. All the Kings, and the hotel I think only has a handful. I think it's 10. So those were the first to go, were all the Kings. So right now everyone's booking the doubles. And one of the people that wanted to come on the trip, they're actually from, I believe, from California, and they'd never been on the Salt Patrol trip. This will be their first time, but they wanted like the nicest room. They wanted the nicest boat. And that boat that I showed you there at the end, that 35-foot cabin cruiser, was the boat that they ended up renting, and we were able to secure that for them for the 3 days of the Salt Patrol, I won't say tournament, but Salt Patrol gathering.
We'll just call it the event.
The event.
There you go.
What are the dates of this event?
It's April. It's the weekend of the 17th, 18th, 19th.
Yeah, we went same as we used to do in Palma. It's going to be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal.
So yeah, that's going to be that weekend. But like I said, a lot of people, even though it's a 5-day, 4-night, a lot of guys will come in early and leave late. I think everyone that's booked so far has booked more than the 5-day, 4-night already. So it's something that, I anticipate. But we've locked in a block of rooms. I think we're limited more on the amount of boats and what we can handle. And we don't want to make it too big. And we think 30 is a good group that you can handle and take care of very well and treat them good and get them out to dinner. And we want to do some group dinners and things like that. There are some places where we take like a group and they'll have like dancers come out and do like traditional Mexican dances. There's one place that they'll actually they'll do like costume changes. And what they'll do is they'll say, okay, this is a traditional music and dance from this region in Mexico, and then they'll go back and change, and then they'll come out and say, now this is from this region of Mexico. And it's really, really cool that you're eating and you're watching the show at the same time, and they do that for us there in La Paz. And then there are other places where we take a group and they'll actually do like 7-course meals where they'll bring out plates of shrimp, and the next course they'll bring out plates of tacos and plates of and they, the first time I went there, this group had gone the night before I went. And they're like, man, when you think that you're done and you can't eat anymore, there's another plate that comes. And then when you think you're done there, another plate comes out. And so when I went, you were eating, and I go, man, those guys were right. I'm at that, couldn't believe another plate came out. And they go, oh, no, we're not done. We still have 2 more plates coming. And I was like, what? This is crazy, And very inexpensive, and the food is just phenomenal. So that part, you definitely won't go hungry, that's for sure. And then as far as, I'll show you some pictures of what La Paz is really known for their nightlife, and that's the Malecon, and I'll share that with you here. So this is kind of like the Malecon at night. So it's kind of like your ocean walk. You've got like a boardwalk, say. So you're right on the water, and you've got tons. It's just restaurants and clubs, and one after another. And it's so much fun. I actually go down to the Malecon every night around 8 o'clock. When I'm there in the summertime, it gets pretty hot. So I usually wait till about 8:30, and kind of like you see in this picture here. And I walk for about an hour, and all you see is just families and kids riding their bikes and people exercising and jogging, and all these restaurants that you can sit on the rooftops and watch the sunset. Because here in La Paz, you can actually, if you face one direction, you see the sunrise like you do in Los Torillos, and then you look through the Malecon and you can see the sunset. So there's some great restaurants where you can take in the sunset as well. And all of the restaurants there on the Malecon have a great ocean view. And like I said, in April, the weather's going to be perfect. So it's just going to be so much fun to be out there. And then the iconic La Paz sign that everyone always wants to take their picture in front of and stuff. So
how far is it to go to the Malecon?
So the Malecon is from the hotel that we are using. You can walk it in about 15 minutes, or you can take a taxi ride and you're there in a couple of minutes, very, very fast. So, but like I said, at night, I encourage, if you do take a day off where you're not fishing, definitely go out there during the day, because the weather's going to be great and you can walk it during the day, and there's a lot of shopping, great places to go and get souvenirs, things like that, and have lunch and enjoy the day. And then at night, it really becomes like a scene. Great restaurants. If you want like the happening clubs, you go and you can have the happening clubs where they have the loud music and the dancing and all that. If you want a really nice fine dining, they got that as well. And there's some great restaurants that I actually prefer for a great meal that are just off the Malecon, that are off the beaten path, that the locals know about. There was one sushi restaurant. It was on my way. I would walk from maybe 7 blocks up from the Malecon where I was staying down to the Malecon every night. And the sushi restaurant was like 3 blocks up from the Malecon, a place that you would have to know to go to, but it was always packed. And you know the rule: if it's packed, it's got to be good. So one day I go, you know what? I feel like eating sushi. I'm gonna walk over there. So I walked over. I sat down. Oh my God, it was some of the best sushi I ever had. And these guys were so great. I was like, hey, can you make a roll with this, that, and the other? And he's like, yeah, I'll make that for you. So they would make specialty rolls for me, and they were always packed. So I mean, great food. And like I said, since I've been there now a year and a half, I've gotten to know some of the good restaurants. So I'll be able to give you guys a great recommendation. It's gonna blow you away. I've had guys who have said to me, I just want to bring my wife down here just to eat, and then I'll fly her home. You know, it's like I don't even care about the fishing because the food is just so good here. So that's one of the things that you definitely got to look forward to as far as that goes. And then I'll show you some of the beach stuff we have. And like John was saying about Balandra, this is the famous mushroom rock at Balandra, and you do like a tour. You can either go to Balandra, or if you take like a tour, which they do on a boat. This is Balandra. I mean, you can look at the water. It's just like a beautiful turquoise. That's where the mushroom rock is. So it's a beautiful, beautiful beach. You can actually walk way out because it's really shallow. So you can walk way out on that beach, and it's really, really cool. And this is Espiritu Santo. So John, you actually fished around this island when you were out there fishing. If you're not fishing, you can actually take a tour. These are like the tour boats that take you out. And what they'll do is they'll stop at Balandra, and you can go swimming in Balandra. Then they'll take you out to Espiritu Santos. They'll feed you lunch on the beach there in Espiritu Santo, and you can go and swim at the beach there in Espiritu Santo. And it's a beautiful, it takes all day, and they take you to the different beaches. They take you to the island. You can actually go and snorkel with the sea lions. I actually got to do it and snorkel with some pups, and it was really cool. And some guys go into great scuba diving there as well. That sunken ferry that I was telling you about where the Yellowtail are at, a lot of guys go and dive that ferry. So if you're into scuba diving, or you can definitely do some dive trips when you're down there. This is Tecolote, where you can see more of like the restaurants, the bars. And what I love about this is where I took my family when they came down, and we got underneath one of those umbrellas, and you get weighted on hand and foot. You know, they come and bring you food, they come and bring you drinks, and then you can go in the water. You can rent jet skis, you can do parasailing, you can do the banana boat thing where you get towed behind it and stuff like that. So a lot of great things that you can do there besides just doing the fishing. Obviously, fishing is what we're known for, but why I encourage you to stay extra days and take advantage of all the great do there, because you can do the Malecon, you could do the tour to Santos. In the wintertime, La Paz is really known for whale watching. So we get gray whales, humpbacks there, and that's usually in the January, February, March timeframe. But you also see them sometimes in November. Whale sharks, humpbacks, and gray whales are the most common. We get a lot of dolphins, as you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen them in the dolphins. You get a lot of those, the manta rays, the turtles. We see turtles when we're out fishing almost every day. Diving, kayaking, you know, the whale shark tours happens a lot, and the sport fishing and things like that, obviously. But we're promoting, and so yeah, a lot of different things that you can do, and you know, so like I said, I encourage you to stay a couple extra days, take advantage of that, and check it all out.
So Scott and I, every year, we always extend our trip, and we usually would go at least somewhere different. But what the picture you're painting right here, I don't think we need to go anywhere. I think we would just stay in the same area and do little day trips here and there. It seems like there's a ton to do. And the fishing seems really dynamic. So I'm wondering, can you paint me a picture of like the 3 fishing days? What does that look like logistically? What's my day going to look like? What am I going to target? Am I going to focus on one species? Is it going to be multiple species? What's going to happen?
So basically, I'll just kind of run into the day. What basically happens is you wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock, you head down to eat breakfast in the morning. I'll be there, and Gabriel, who's our boat dispatcher, he'll be there in the morning waiting for you guys. And then we'll take your lunch orders, and we'll ask you what you want for lunch. We'll have that prepared for you. And then around 7 o'clock, we meet you at the lobby with the van, and we load you up in the van, and we head over to our boats, which are, the marine is called the Lingue is what it's called. And so it's about a 15-minute drive. We get there, everybody walks over to their boat. We put your lunches on the boat. If you guys want any beer, we put the beer on the boat for you right there. Then we send you off. And basically, what I normally tell people is, you know, the first they kind of go with what the captain, he's been out there fishing every day. He knows how to get you on fish as much as possible. So kind of listen to what he has to say. And that time of year in April, there's a couple different things that you can do. And then there are other spots where you can get a mix. It might not be all yellowtail. It might be some of the bottom fishing where we have some rocks where it's kind of like a seamount and it's maybe like in 50 feet of water and you'll drop down. And that's when, you'll drop your bait down to the bottom, take about 3 cranks up and sit, and then boom, they hit quick. And that's my first time doing it. It was kind of embarrassing that I'm telling you the story, but I would drop the bait down, and the captain goes, "Okay, drop it down to the bottom. Now crank 2-3 times up." He's all, "Now hold on." And it was like, and he was like, and I looked at him, and he's all, "What was that?" And he goes, the captain's like, "You got to reel." And I was like, it was like 3 seconds. And he's like, "No, you have to reel right away." And I was like, "Okay." So then I would drop it down to the bottom again, and you're trying to fight him because he's trying to run to the rocks. And then one time I had a nice snapper and he went right into the rocks. And I thought at one point I go, "Am I stuck on the bottom?" And the captain grabs it and goes, "No, there's a fish on there." And so he just starts yanking on him like this, yanking on the rocks. And finally he got him to come out of the rocks, and then he hands me the rocks. He's like, now reel him in. But it's a lot of fun. So
it's funny. Yeah, that's what happens. Before everybody asks, the tackle is pretty good down there. They do a good job on tackle.
Okay.
So you don't have to bring a lot of stuff. So
I was going to ask you, are you fishing like the same size gear of tuna gear, kind of same size?
More like what we would call for the smaller reels and stuff. Yeah, it's not. You're not doing 50 wides and 30 wides and all that stuff. So no, because most stuff you're gonna have in your hand.
What about bait? You mentioned bait. Are we buying bait every morning?
Now, in that time of year, you're going to be doing both. So what we do is we buy the sardinas, but we go and make the bait for the mackerel. We just never know what they're hitting, because when I was fishing that tournament for yellowtail, we were trolling mackerel and we couldn't get anything to bite. And one of our other captains on the radio goes, "Hey, we're catching yellowtail over here, but they're only hitting sardines." And so we went over there, dropped the sardinas, and caught for yellowtail. Unfortunately, they weren't big enough to qualify for the tournament first, second, and third place, but we still caught some. But you just never know what they're hitting. So what we try to do that time of year is we send our captains early in the morning, because the mackerel tend to be over by where the hotel is. And so it's kind of 30 minutes to where the actual fishing is. So instead of wasting time having you go and get the bait and then go back to where the fishing grounds are, we go and we send our captains earlier to go and get the bait, the mackerel, and then we go and then you'll buy the sardinas, and then you'll pay for both. You'll pay for the mackerel and the sardinas, but our captains will go and get that mackerel early. That way you don't have to worry about it. And that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. That's one of the reasons why our boats are 15 minutes away from the hotel. So if we were to load you up at the hotel, you would have about a 30-minute drive on the boat out to the fishing grounds. It's a lot faster to get you to where the boats are, and then you're on the fishing grounds a lot sooner that way.
How long's the run to the fishing grounds?
It depends. It depends on which one you're going to. If you're fishing like where like the ferry is, you're fishing maybe 15. Some runs like we're a famous spot that's a seamount that's very famous for grouper fishing is about maybe an hour. So I don't think you're really going any further than an hour. Maybe sometimes the captains hear something on the radio. "Oh, there's something really good happening over by Cerrado Island," and then we'll go out to Cerrado and be around the backside of the island like an hour and a half. But typically, it can be anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour and a half run to get out to the grounds. I'm not sure, John, what your experience was when you guys went out.
Yeah, same. I mean, we always stopped at the Yellowtail hole, I call it, right away. And then, that's like you're 10, 15 minutes max you're fishing. And then we ran over to the island, fished a bunch of spots. So we pretty much went around the island one time and, and they're fishermen, I mean, if they see bait, trust me, they're going to stop and catch bait. They're if they never pass up bait if they see it. So, which is good because it gives you extra bait to throw in the water and chum fish up, so.
One time, I again, my background is not in fishing, but when I went out for the tournament, we actually had to go get our own bait. And I've never caught bait like that on a tiki break. I loved it.
It's fun too.
It's fun. At the same time, bring them in, and the captain puts them in the bait tank, and then you go off fishing. So I really enjoyed it. And when I've had clients go, "Man, you should sell that as a trip, as a part of it." And I was like, some guys love it, and some guys are like, "Why did we waste time, making bait?" And other guys are like, "Oh, that was so much fun catching bait." So you just never know.
That's so funny. I love it.
Welcome to winter Washington fishing. Let's go catch sand dab trips.
It's fun John, in April being shorts. Yeah.
What was your favorite fish to target in that area? And also, for those of us, I know several people that listen to this did go to your Salt Patrol trip. What was the biggest difference between the two experiences that you want to highlight?
Fish wise, I'd say big snappers were a lot of fun, and then roosterfish. I mean, you can't. I love roosterfish.
They're
So
so cool.
yeah, they are just a cool fish. So that was a lot of fun. Although we got dorado, and we got it was a good trip. We had a good time. But the biggest difference, probably the town. I mean, you're going from a small sleepy town to a city with a lot of cool stuff going on, and the scenery there is pretty remarkable. I mean.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a different vibe for sure, but it's fun. It's a good time.
I was just going to say, I would say that the biggest difference for me that I've noticed by having worked in both areas, that first of all, the fishing is very different as far as that springtime fishing. Like I said, the yellowtail, gosh, they go through Los Barillas, but they go by. So if you're going to catch them in Los Barillas, you've got to catch them as they're going by. They sit and settle in La Paz. So we're fishing.
So you're going to get your yellowtail.
You're going to get opportunities.
And it's funny, like last year, they were around, I think almost till July, if I'm not mistaken. Normally that's not the case. And then even in March, April, and May, 1 week can be great, and then the next week they can just stop biting, and then the next week they're biting again like crazy. I mean, but that's fishing, like fishermen.
But there's other fish to catch. That's what's nice about it.
That's the thing. Like the world record roosterfish was actually in La Paz. It was over 100 pounds. Can you imagine catch fish?
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't even look like a roosterfish. I saw a picture of it. It was an old fish, and it just didn't even look like a roosterfish anymore.
Well, the minute we planned this event, I immediately said, well, if we're doing it in April. Because I said, I'm not going to go do the same thing. I said, let's do something different.
And I was going to offer that to the Salt Patrol guys as well, because, one of the reasons why I left the East Cape is, you just start getting burned out of the same thing over and over and over. And so I wanted to offer the guys from the Pacific Northwest that were coming down for 17, 18 years, Salt Patrol, something a little bit different. And this is way different. Weather's different. As you guys know, the weather can be, like 90, and it can be pretty warm during that time. It's still warm, but for some reason, there's something about April. Even before I started working in La Paz, I've always said April's my favorite month to be down there, because there's no humidity. The high is 80, the low is 60, so it's never too cold, it's never too warm, but it's just perfect. It's one of those neutral where you can just walk around, feel really comfortable, kind of like being in Hawaii. And like John said, the town is very different. You are missing that beach, like in Los Barillas, when you walked out of your room, you had that beach. Not that a lot of people actually went on the beach. They would just spend most of the time in the pool anyway. But you can go to the beach. And I think they have really prettier and a lot cooler beaches in La Paz. You just got to go to them. Where in Los Barillas, you don't have that beach where you have that restaurant bar where people are bringing you drinks when you're sitting right on the beach. So you do have that when you go to Balandra or more like Tecolote. So you've got some really great beaches there. The restaurant scene in Los Barillas is great, but I mean, it's times 100 in La Paz as far as that goes. And you're talking about a town. I think La Paz in the metropolitan area is about 300,000 people. So, you're talking about a good size compared to like Los Barillas, which is a very small town. But and one of the biggest differences that I noticed right off the bat, and it's something that almost everybody who's been to Los Barillas notices when they go, when there's so many Americans in Los Barillas that middle class is kind of missing as far as the local Mexicans go. So when you go to a restaurant, it's 90% Americans that you see at the restaurant. The locals that are working there, they're working the hotel jobs, the captains, the deckhands. So you're missing that middle class. In La Paz, because it's the capital, you've got the government workers, you've got big businesses. So you've got a very healthy middle class and an upper middle class. So when you go to a restaurant in La Paz, you're going to see a lot of Mexican. And cool. I like that because it gives you more of that flavor, that authentic flavor. You don't feel like you're in a small town in the United States, where that's kind of where Los Barillas is heading. I think right now, the last census that I saw, it was basically half and half expats to Mexicans. You're going to get that authentic Mexican vibe when you go to a restaurant there. You are going to see 90% Mexican, 10% expats coming from Canada or the U.S. when you go out to eat.
Is there a fishing pier close to the hotel there where you can fish from either the beach or from a pier close to the hotel?
You can't fish in the marina, unfortunately, there, but there are some beaches where you can fish from. But
it's not like it is in Los Barillas where you can fish right from the dock there. So it's one of those things where you're going to get your fill of fishing when you're on the boat, and hopefully you're going to have plenty of other things to do after fishing day where you're not going to be worrying about fishing. In Los Barillas, it's a little bit tougher because it's a smaller town. There's really not a whole lot to do besides go out to dinner. So everyone's kind of like, okay, we're going to go fishing off the dock there. Where in La Paz, there's so many things you can do at night after you're fishing. You're going to be well entertained and well taken care of.
Awesome. Well,
Yep.
Steve, did you have any questions?
You bet. Hey, first, John and Eddie, you paint a great picture here. It sounds great. It sounds exciting. Unfortunately, I think it's our Christmas plans, but that's not something we can swing this April. But is there other times of the year that you offer any fishing packages or anything like that? Like, I get pretty tired of the Pacific Northwest weather right about January. So I'm looking like January, February. Is there
problem with down there? I'm sure Eddie can jump into is we get the winds then. And
okay.
it makes it hard to fish then. So I mean, there's not as like every day, but you're going to get a lot of windy weather. The kite surfers take over. So.
Yeah, I would try to keep it to, if you're going to come down to La Paz, keep it to, I would say March would be the earliest I would come down, and I would be out of there by maybe the first week of November. That would be the latest I would plan a trip. And the only reason I say that, and I said it earlier, it's a year-round fishery, but I would hate to have you come down and spend all that money on airlines and tickets and boats, and then you're there, and then 5 days in a row, it blows. If it blows over 20 miles an hour, they close the dock. They closed the marina, and no boats are allowed to go out. So it's out of our control. So you wouldn't be able to go out, and I would hate to have you come down and not be able to go out even one day down there. Baja Pirates does have another operation, which is in Mag Bay, which I'm going to get John to come down soon. And that, I know we're not going to talk about that on this show, but that fishery is a whole nother level of fishing. If you think Cabo and the East Cape and La Paz, I went to Mag Bay and fished there. Holy cow, that was a fishery. I mean, you've got 100 miles of mangroves where you fish for 30 different species of fish. They've got the best wahoo spot in all of the world, which is it's a 2-hour run, but when you get there, you're fishing tuna, you're fishing wahoo, and getting 8 wahoo in a day is not a big thing there. And big grouper, big snapper, things like that. It's one of the reasons why I decided to come work for Baja Pirates is when I went to Mag Bay, I got super excited about that. Very rustic little town. There's nothing to do there but fish. But if you like fishing, you have to go there. And our operation there goes till about mid-December. So if you're looking for something in December time frame, that's a good alternative to go there where the weather's still, it's a little bit cooler there because you're on the Pacific side now. But when the wind blows, we fish the mangroves, and the mangroves are flat calm because you're protected by the barge out there. So you can definitely fish. And then when it's not windy, you go out into the Pacific and go for the wahoo.
Awesome. Well, one of the other things, unlike Jamie and Scott, who fish together, my group, our spouses don't necessarily fish with us.
So we have a lot of that.
Yeah. So there's the fishing crew and the drinking crew. Is there packages set up for things like that? I noticed the package you flashed up there was, it looked like for, 2 people fishing. Is there a different kind of package or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically what you'll do is let's say you had 2 couples, and the 2 guys are going to fish together. So basically what we do is, even though it's going to be, 2 couples, you're going to get 2 rooms. So the 2 guys who are going to fish, they would pay the $15.25 package rate, and then the ladies, all they have to do is pay for half of their room, where you're talking
gotcha.
$75 a night. That includes your breakfast, so that's all you got to pay for.
That's easy.
Yep.
Okay. All
How
right.
many people per boat is good?
We normally try to put, like on most of the boats I showed you, like the center console, the walk around center consoles, we try to put 2. Some of the bigger ones you can put 3. So if you did have 3, what we do is we'll normally do like 2 rooms. So we'll do like 1 room for 2 people, and then we'll get a single room, and we'll charge it a little bit different. But then all 3 of you can go on a boat together and fish on the bigger boats. But normally we do 2 to a boat, 3 on a little bit bigger. And if you have 4 guys, then we'll get you the bigger cruiser, and we'll put 4 on the boat on the cruiser.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah,
thank you.
We can get you down there at some point, even if it's not on this trip. But plan on it. Hopefully we're gonna make this an annual event, so we can do it again next April if possible.
Okay, so with that in mind, when you said a lot of the like the king rooms and whatnot are already taken, and we're just into November, when's a good time to pull the trigger on it for next April?
I would probably wait until, yeah, we normally give the people who came in April the first shot at booking the rooms. That way, that it's kind of an advantage for going year after year. And we've kind of kept that tradition for 8 years. But I would do it right away, like in April, and right after the trip. Once we've gotten that trip in our rear view mirror, then we'll start booking for the following year.
Oh, okay. So immediately, probably May of this year then, or May of 2026.
When we did the Salt Patrol tournament, we would actually have people right after, while they were still there, they would come in to my office and they would say, hey, I want to book for next year. I want to book the same room, the same boat.
Oh, sure.
Make their reservation for next year. So as soon as this trip is done, we can hopefully start booking for the following year.
All right. Well, let's start banging the drums and see who answers.
Yeah, well, a little head start because this isn't public yet, but I have a feeling these are going to book really quick. So for those that are tuning into this podcast, Eddie, how can they get a hold of you to lock in those rooms? Because as a participant, we went one time and we're like, we're never not doing this. That we're always going. The only reason we're not this year is I'm having a baby.
Sure. And like during the trade shows, when I do the show up in Puyallup, I'll be there, and we anticipate a lot of people sighting up there in Puyallup. I think that's the last week of January. So I'll be up there with the owner of Baja Pirates, Leonard Phillips, and we'll be up there too doing reservations for Salt Patrol, and we'll also get the Portland show, which I believe is after that. So we'll be there making reservations. But best thing to do is you can give me a call, and my phone number, I can give that to you. It's 818-383-7463. And our website is at bajapirates.com. So it's super simple. Just go on our website, bajapirates.com. Our phone numbers are all listed there. You can send us an email, ask us any questions. I encourage that. Send me an email and say, hey, Eddie, I was just kind of wondering about this. I've got, 3 guys, or I've got 5 guys. What would the price be? We want to come in on this day, fly out on that day. You come in one day earlier, one day later, the price of your flights, it could be a big difference. So that might change your, if you're going to pay, $150 more, you might as well stay and come in a day early and spend $150 on the room than on the flight, and extend your vacation. But I always tell people, so that's always a good idea to check flights, see what the prices are, and then kind of plan your trip around that. But definitely, you're going to have to be there those 3 days of fishing, which is going to be that Friday, Saturday, Sunday time frame.
Awesome.
Yeah, just keep in mind, 17 years of going down to the Baja. What's going to happen is a lot of those people are used to me putting the information out right at the beginning of the year when we start the show season. So, and we're already halfway there, be it booked up. So, I mean, they're not going to last very long. I mean, I'm sure after I do one of my seminars, it's going to be tough.
I just sent out an email blast and just to, our clients, and just saying that, hey, the Salt Patrol dates are this, and that's where we booked probably half the people were calling, and we booked half of it already. So we haven't even really started like with the trade shows and John's seminars, and like I said, when the Pied Piper starts talking, people are going to follow. So you better start calling quick.
Well, honestly, and that's what makes this experience so unique. You're going to meet people from home in a unique fishery and experience something brand new. And there's nothing like it. It's an absolute blast. And the fact that there's limited rooms mean you just need to call and get it booked. Yeah. Because all the people that go are going to have a blast, and they're going to rebook. And you're, just got to get in. Just got to get in.
It was one of, like I said, I do about 20 of these groups a year when I was down in Los Barriles. And this was one of my favorites because everybody that was coming down, they were coming down from the Pacific Northwest. They kind of all knew each other. They were either part of the fishing clubs down there. And then it became year after year. Some of these people didn't see each other for a whole year, but they would reunite down in Los Barriles, and they had all the friendships that were forged during all these trips. And it was really special. And John and I and John's brother-in-law, Paul Castillo, we would do the tournaments every year and just have a blast doing them. And it's so much fun. And honestly, it was one of my favorite groups because of that, because you guys had that camaraderie and that friendship, all coming from the same area, a lot of things in common, and a lot of burnt thumbs for the first timers. Yeah, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think that La Paz, being a smaller group, is going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to do a lot of fun things. And I think it's going to be in a different time of year and in a different place. It'll be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to you two getting down there as soon as you are able to.
Yes. We'll be a family of 3. So we're wrapping up the podcast here. I want to thank you both for taking the time to kind of share a little glimpse of how epic this trip is. I'm really excited to get down there and experience this fishery. But what would your final piece of advice be to somebody who's brand new, never done a trip like this and is considering it? But, you know, there's always that unknown. I'm not quite sure what to expect. What advice would you give somebody brand new looking into this experience?
John, you want to go first?
Well, first off, you're going to have a good time. You're going to meet new people, make new friends. You're going to have an addiction that will never go away. You'll probably see you from here in Panama or, Costa Rica or, someplace else. Was, all of a sudden, little mini groups start taking off out of that Mexico thing, and we start going all of these other places. So you're going to make friends for life that fish and like the things that you do. And it doesn't matter if you're the janitor or you're a brain surgeon. Everybody talks fishing, and we all have that key thing going on together. Everybody treats everybody great, and it's just a fun time. That's why I do it. I enjoy the people, and we just have a really good time.
It's
epic. Yeah, and it's super safe down there. That's one of the questions I get a lot of is like, oh, is it safe? And just talk to your club members who have been on the Los Barillas trip in the past, and they'll tell you, it's super safe down there. Baja is almost like a separate country than mainland Mexico. All that stuff you on the news is like mainland Mexico stuff, border stuff. We don't get any of it. Like I said, I walk every night at 8:30. I walk either with my wife or by myself down to Malecon. It's all families and kids and super, super safe. So I drive down. I've driven the Baja from California to La Paz or Los Barillas probably over 100 times. I've never had an issue ever. I've hit cattle. I've blown tires. I've never had safety issues.
So watch me for the cows.
Yeah, right. For sure. Driving at night.
We have a little tradition here that we've asked the previous guests on the podcast to give us a question. And the question for you guys, and then we'll ask you a question after we're done, is what is the last fish that you caught?
Your last fish
Your
story.
last
fish. So the previous guest leaves a question for the next guest, not knowing who it is.
And
the question that has been left for you.
Last fish that you've caught.
For me, it had been salmon. So
September 3rd.
You have a story attached to it. Can you recall the actual last fish?
Yeah, I do. Because Jerry and I were together, and I reeled in. He was netting a fish, and I said, "That's a wrap for the season, buddy." I said, we figured we fished around 100 days, and we had I don't even know how many fish, but we had a lot of fish. So, we ended the last day in Oaxaca, and I think we had some pretty good sized kings, the upper 20s, that kind of thing. So I said, let's just quit while we're on top. It's a good time to go home. So
a good ending.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Eddie?
I just got back from Mag Bay. I was there helping out, and it was probably November 9th or 10th. I went out fishing, and I remember we were fishing mangroves, and there were so many different species. I don't remember the actual last one, but I know we caught grouper, we caught snapper, and we caught white sea bass. I don't know which one the actual last one was, but my last day of fishing, I caught those 4 different species of fish.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Well, awesome. I want to thank you both for taking the time to share a little bit about this epic trip and adventure that you're planning on launching in April on the 17th through the 19th. So again, you guys, we'll make sure to link everything in the show notes, and you can go book it as soon as you can. But thank you so much for taking time to share this experience with us. We really look forward to getting out there and fishing with you guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, brother. I'll be seeing you soon.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for tuning into the Fishing for a Reason podcast. We'll catch you next week, the same time, same place, same channel. Thanks, everybody.
Tight lines.
Bye now.
See you guys. Thanks.